On my birthday, everyone mocked my husband, then he spoke and the room fell dead silent. It was my 35th birthday, and the house buzzed with laughter that felt more like sharpened knives than joy. I'd invited my closest friends and family, old college buddies, my sister Elena with her high-powered lawyer husband, and a few colleagues from the marketing firm where I clawed my way up to senior manager. The living room sparkled under string lights, the table groaned with catered hors d'oeuvres, and champagne flowed like water. But the real centerpiece wasn't the cake or the gifts. It was my husband Alex standing quietly in the corner, nursing a glass of soda while everyone else toasted with bubbly. Alex had always been the quiet type, the kind of man who preferred fixing things with his hands over schmoozing at parties. We'd met in college, he was studying engineering on a scholarship, I was the ambitious communications major. Back then his unassuming nature charmed me. He was my rock, steady and reliable. But over the years life hadn't been kind. His startup flopped during the recession, and now he worked as a freelance mechanic, tinkering in our garage on weekends. I loved him fiercely, but I couldn't deny the whispers that followed us. "What's she doing with him?" they'd say. "She could do so much better." That night, the mockery started innocently enough, disguised as banter. My best friend from college, Sarah, kicked it off. She was tipsy, her designer dress hugging her Pilates sculpted figure, as she sidled up to me with a wink. "Happy birthday, darling. You've outdone yourself. And Alex, still got that grease under your nails." She laughed, loud and artificial, glancing at him like he was a relic from a bygone era. Alex smiled politely, wiping his hands on his jeans. Clean jeans, mind you, but the room erupted in chuckles. My brother-in-law, Mark, Elena's husband, joined in. Mark was the epitome of success. Tailored suit, Rolex glinting under the lights, always dropping names of clients who'd changed the world. He clapped Alex on the back a bit too hard. "Come on, buddy, tell us about your latest project. Fixing lawnmowers? Or was it that old Chevy in your driveway? Man, you should join the big leagues. I could hook you up with a real job." The laughter swelled, and I felt a knot twist in my stomach. I shot Alex a pleading look, but he just shrugged, his eyes calm as ever. "It's fine," he mouthed to me. But it wasn't. My cousin Lisa, ever the social climber, chimed in next. "Remember when Alex proposed? With that tiny ring? Adorable, really. But hey, love conquers all, right?" She raised her glass, and the toast turned into a roast. One by one they piled on jokes about our modest house, our second-hand car, how I carried the family. Elena even leaned in, whispering loudly, "Sis, you're a saint. If it were me, I'd have upgraded by now." I wanted to scream to defend him, but the words stuck in my throat. This was my party, my day, and yet it felt like a public execution of our life together. Tears pricked my eyes as I forced a smile, pretending it was all in good fun. Inside, rage simmered, not just at them, but at myself for letting it happen. Alex had warned me about inviting them. He knew how they saw him. But I'd insisted, hoping for once they'd see the man I loved, not the caricature they'd built. As the cake was wheeled out, the mockery hit its peak. Sarah, emboldened by the alcohol, grabbed the microphone from the karaoke setup we'd rented. "All right, everyone. A special toast to the birthday girl and her devoted hubby. Alex, why don't you say a few words? Tell us your secret to keeping her happy on a budget." The room howled, phones out, ready to capture the moment for social media. Mark snorted. "Yeah, spill the beans, grease monkey." Alex set down his glass and stepped forward. The room hushed a fraction, expecting some awkward mumble. But when he spoke, his voice was steady, resonant, like a storm brewing on the horizon. "All right," he said, his eyes scanning the faces, smug, expectant, cruel. "Since you all seem so interested in my life, let me share a story. It's about success, failure, and what really matters." He paused and the silence deepened. No one laughed now. 10 years ago, I started a company. It was small, innovative, developing software for autonomous vehicles. We had promise, but the market crashed, investors pulled out. I lost everything. Or so I thought. He glanced at me, his gaze softening for a split second before hardening again. But I didn't give up. I pivoted. Worked in the shadows, building something bigger. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her smile faltering. Mark crossed his arms, smirking. "Oh yeah? What a better wrench." Alex ignored him. Turns out that failure was the best thing that happened. Taught me resilience. And while you all were climbing your corporate ladders, I was quietly acquiring patents. See my little garage tinkering? It's not just fixing cars. It's revolutionizing AI-driven diagnostics for electric vehicles. He pulled out his phone, projecting a screen onto the wall. A news article from TechCrunch dated just last week. My company, which I rebooted in secret, just sold to Tesla for $150 million. The room fell dead silent. Jaws dropped, glasses clinked forgotten on tables. Sarah's face drained of color, her phone slipping from her hand. Mark's smirk vanished, replaced by a slack expression of shock. Elena's eyes widened, darting between us like she'd been slapped. But that's not the revenge part, Alex continued. His voice now laced with a quiet edge that sent chills down my spine. You see, over the years I've watched you all. Sarah, remember when you borrowed my wife's ideas for your promotion pitch? I have the emails. You got the raise, she got overlooked. Sarah gasped, stepping back as if burned. Mark, Alex turned to him. You've been bragging about your big clients. But I know about the insider trading tip you gave your buddy last year. The SEC might find that interesting. Especially since I anonymously reported it this morning. Mark's face turned ashen, his Rolex suddenly looking like a handcuff. Elena, my dear sister-in-law, you always said I wasn't good enough for your family. But who covered your gambling debts last year? Not your husband, me. Anonymously, through a foundation I set up. You thought it was luck. Elena clutched her pearls, tears welling up. And Lisa, he said softly, those connections you boast about? Half came from poaching my old network. But guess what? They're mine again now. Good luck at your next networking event. One by one he dismantled them, not with shouts or fists, but with truths he'd harbored like weapons. The air thickened with regret, shame hanging heavy like smoke. My heart pounded, a mix of awe and vindication surging through me. All these years I'd defended him in whispers, but he'd been planning this symphony of revelation. The silence stretched, broken only by a cough here, a shuffle there. Finally Alex turned to me, his eyes warm again. Happy birthday, love. This is my gift to you, clarity. And to all of you, he addressed the room. Consider this a lesson. Mockery is easy when you think someone's down. But real strength? It's rising without fanfare. Then letting the truth speak. People began to mumble excuses, grabbing coats and slipping out. Sarah hugged me awkwardly, whispering apologies that rang hollow. Mark and Elena left without a word, their faces masks of humiliation. Lisa muttered something about a headache and bolted. As the door closed on the last guest, the house felt lighter, cleansed. I threw my arms around Alex, tears streaming down my face. Not from sadness but from a profound relief. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. He kissed my forehead. I wanted to surprise you. And them. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about justice. They belittled us for years. Now they know the truth. We sat on the couch amid the remnants of the party, sharing the cake in peace. For the first time in ages I felt truly seen. Not just as the successful wife, but as part of a team unbreakable. Alex wasn't the underdog. He was the architect of his own empire, patient and precise. In the days that followed, the fallout rippled. Sarah lost her job amid an internal investigation. Turns out, those stolen ideas weren't the only skeletons. Mark faced SEC scrutiny, his career teetering. Elena called sobbing, begging for forgiveness, but I let it go to voicemail. We didn't need their validation anymore. Alex's deal made headlines, and suddenly invitations poured in. From the very people who'd mocked him. But we declined most, choosing instead quiet evenings in our modest home. Now a sanctuary. My birthday, once tainted, became a turning point. A reminder that true revenge isn't loud. It's the quiet unveiling of power long hidden. As we rebuilt our life on our terms, I realized the deepest emotion wasn't anger or triumph, but love, fierce, enduring love for the man who'd turned silence into thunder. And in that we found our happily ever after, sweeter for the wait.